Under the glare of a high African sun, the vast savanna stretches endlessly, a sea of ochre grasses swaying gently in the midday breeze. Acacia trees hit the horizon like scattered umbrellas, casting delicate shadows over the baked earth. A crimson safari bus hums to a halt along a dusty trail, its windows buzzing with anticipation. Inside, wide-eyed tourists raise their cameras, their voices hushed by the grandeur around them. At the front of the bus stands Ranger Nuru, calm, alert, and deeply attuned to the rhythms of this wild land. With decades of bushcraft in his bones, Nuru is more than a guide. He is a guardian, trusted by both man and, as some would come to believe, by the beasts themselves. Today, however, the wild would speak in a voice no one expected. As the bus came to a gentle halt near the dusty trail, the tourists leaned forward, their eyes wide with expectation. The air shimmered under the African sun, and the distant calls of hornbills echoed through the golden stillness. With binoculars around his neck, Ranger Nuru stepped off the bus and stood beside the observation vehicle. He scanned the horizon with the quiet focus of a man who had long learned to listen to the land. Years of walking this earth had taught him that the wild speaks, in tracks, in distant calls, in the stirrings of the breeze. And this morning, something fell off. Then, a sudden rupture. The grass beside the road exploded with motion. A male lion, his frame thick with muscle and crowned by a vast, golden mane, surged forth. Right behind him, a powerful, muscular lioness came running after. Not with aggression, but with urgency. Nuru reacted without hesitation. He spun and bolted back to the bus, yanking the door shut behind it with a thud that startled everyone inside. Screams broke out. A camera fell. The bus pulsed with fear. And yet, the lions did not advance. They paced, back and forth, eyes wide, movements restless. Not predators, but messengers. Inside the vehicle, hearts still raced, but the danger, the kind they feared, did not come. Outside, the two lions continued to move. Back and forth, back and forth. Their great paws disturbed the dust in slow, agitated circles. But there were no snarls, no lowered stances, no signs of predatory intent. Only tension and something else entirely. Ranger Nuru, now calmer, leaned toward the window, studying them closely. His trained eyes searched for meaning in their posture, their movement, their gaze. And then he saw it. Not rage, not hunger, but something far rarer in the wild, distress. The larger of the two, the lion with the fuller mane, turned briefly toward the brush, then back toward Nuru, holding his gaze for a moment longer than instinct would normally allow. It was not a threat. It was a plea. Nuru's breath caught. A quiet realization settled over him like dust on the savanna. These lions weren't here to attack. They were asking for something. Not with roars, not with force, but with desperation. Parents, helpless, yet determined. Something was terribly wrong, and whatever it was, it lay just beyond the grass. For a long moment, no one inside the bus spoke. Only the sound of distant cicadas filled the silence. Then, slowly, and with a steadiness that came not from bravado, but from deep understanding, Ranger Nuru reached for the door handle once more. The tourist gasped as he stepped outside again, his movements measured, deliberate. This time, the lions did not charge. They parted. The larger male shifted to the right. The other lion, smaller but equally striking, moved a few paces ahead, pausing, then glancing back. There was no question now. They were guiding him. With each step, Nuru followed, his heart steady, his eyes sharp. The bush seemed to hold its breath. Even the birds had gone still. The lions led him just beyond the edge of the road, where the grass grew thick and the earth gave way to a shallow depression in the soil. There, hidden beneath tall reeds and a scattering of loose stones, was a narrow crack in the ground. Nuru paused, and then he heard it. A cry. Faint, fragile, frightened. The unmistakable sound of a cub, lost, perhaps injured, echoing from within the fissure. This was no accident. The lions had brought him here for a reason. Crouching low beside the crack, Ranger Nuru peered into the narrow slit in the earth. The ground was dry and jagged, lined with fractured stone and compacted soil, a natural trap created by time and erosion. There, wedged between the walls of the crevice, lay a lion cub. No more than a few months old, its tawny coat was coated with dust, its small frame trembling. The cub whimpered softly, a pitiful sound of confusion and pain, one leg pinned awkwardly beneath its body. The gap was narrow, far too tight for the cub to climb out on its own, and too dangerous for the adults to intervene without causing harm. This was why they had come, why they had broken instinct and sought the help of a human. The lioness let out a low, anxious whine from behind. Her massive paws shifted uneasily in the dirt. The male lion, silent and still, stood watch just beyond the brush, his eyes never leaving Nuru. There was no aggression in them, only hope. Without hesitation, Nuru rose and returned briskly to the bus. He moved with quiet urgency, grabbing a shovel, a coil of rope, and a small toolkit from a side compartment. When he returned, the lion stepped aside without a sound, offering him space, offering him trust. In the wild, such moments are vanishingly rare. But here, in the heat of the day, two apex predators had placed their faith in one man. And time now was everything. The heat of the day pressed heavily upon the Savanna, but Ranger Nuru, unwavering in his focus, knelt beside the crack. His hands, though steady, trembled slightly as he grasped the shovel. The cub's cries, though faint, echoed in his mind with an urgency that cut through the stillness of the bush. With each measured stroke, Nuru removed the jagged earth carefully, mindful of the fragile cub trapped beneath. Dust clouded the air as he worked, beads of sweat gathering on his brow. His every movement was deliberate, honed by years of experience in this wild, unforgiving land. The cub's cries became more frequent, its voice thick with pain and fear. The lions, silent witnesses, remained motionless, as if suspended in time. The male lion's golden eyes locked on Nuru, unwavering in their trust. The lioness stood close by, her body taut with anticipation, her eyes never leaving her cub. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the gap widened enough. With a soft grunt, Nuru lowered the rope into the fissure, the fibers brushing against the cub's trembling form. Gently, he coaxed it upward, his voice low and soothing, a quiet whisper in the wind. The cub, weak but alive, slowly emerged from the earth, its small body limping as it was carefully cradled in Nuru's arms. The lioness, unable to contain her relief, padded forward, her nostrils flaring as she nuzzled her cub. A deep, unspoken bond passed between them all, man, lion, and cub. And in that moment, the wild seemed to breathe a collective sigh of relief. Gently, Nuru laid the cub on the warm earth, just a few paces from the lions. His hands, though worn from the digging, trembled with the weight of the moment. As the cub's tiny body touched the ground, the lioness moved swiftly, her paws light but firm. She nudged her baby, a soft, motherly whine escaping her lips as she licked the cub's fur with tenderness. Her gaze, once filled with distress, was now full of relief, the primal joy of a mother reunited with her child. The male lion, slower but just as purposeful, approached with cautious steps. His massive head lowered as he examined the cub, his large eyes scanning for signs of injury. Satisfied, he sat down beside the lioness, his body rippling with quiet strength. Then, for a moment that stretched far beyond time, the male lion turned and locked eyes with Ranger Nuru. No growl, no threat, just a deep, profound gaze, a silent acknowledgement, a bond forged in trust. Without a sound, the lions began to retreat, their regal forms dissolving into the tall grass. The cub, protected once more, nestled between them, safe in the embrace of the wild. As Nuru returned to the bus, the silence that filled the air was thick with emotion. The once chattering tourists now sat still, their eyes wide, their breath shallow. Some wiped away tears, while others gazed out the windows, as if struggling to process the extraordinary bond they had just witnessed. One voice, barely above a whisper, broke the stillness. They asked for help, and he understood. A second voice followed, trembling with awe. "I never thought lions could do that." Nuru, his face weathered yet calm, took a slow sip of water. His eyes drifted to the distant horizon where the lions had vanished, his mind still with them. For a moment, he said nothing. He didn't need to. Finally, his voice, quiet yet firm, echoed through the bus. That was no accident. They knew we could help. The bus, now filled with a quiet reverence, began its journey once more. The world outside seeming, in some small way, changed forever. In the wild, we often expect fear, prepare for danger. Yet, in the most unexpected moments, a bond is formed between predator and protector. The intelligence and emotional depth of wild animals are often underestimated. Yet here, in this moment, we witness the quiet understanding between man and beast. This story reminds us of the importance of compassion, conservation, and the need to protect the delicate balance of our world. For in that fleeting moment, a lion trusted a man, and the man chose to answer. Join us in preserving the wonders of the wild. Subscribe and share the message of compassion today.